YouTube, Christopher. Vega-Trem, the best tremolo in the world. That's not my opinion, that's a fact. You can try them yourself, you'll find out. So hey, I got this Vega-Trem here from Vega-Trem. I reached out to them and I told them that I had some pretty amazing project guitars that I wanted to put one of these tremolos into, and they hooked a brother up. So this is my very first sponsored video, and it is sponsored by none other than Vega-Trem. So let's look at the inside contents of what you get when you get a Vega-Trem. Now, truth be told, I already opened this box, and I don't know how this happened, but somehow, if this will ever open, I couldn't get the box to hold the I don't know how this was originally packaged in here. I had to wedge it in there. So like there's some sort of mystical, magical way that this extra long thing was somehow in this box. And like, I don't get it. I don't know how this was ever in here. But believe me when I tell you, it was. So the wizards over at Vega-Trem were able to get their trem bar in this box. But here you go, you got the tremolo bar. It's wrapped up nice. Now again, I've already opened this and I repackaged it just so you could see exactly what you get. So you get this very cool Vega-Trem sticker. Put that aside. You get the Vega-Trem congrats for buying the best tremolo in the world. And you really did. So then it gives you the instruction manual on how to install this into your guitar. It's extremely simple. It comes in a couple of different languages, but it tells you which springs to use depending on what gauge you're going to use on your guitar. So for high tension strings or springs, it's for use with 11s or up. Medium tension for 10s, low tension for 9s, extra low tension for 8. They literally give you 4 different sets of springs in here, as you can see. So we get the extra low tension. That would be for if you were going to use 8s. We get the high tension. That's if you're using 11s or above. We get the medium tension. That's for if you're using 10s. That's what we're going to use today. And you get the low tension for if you're using 9s, right? So there's all the springs. So I got now 3 extra sets of springs that I'm not going to need. This was wrapped in a bag. I took it out and threw the bag away before I put it all back together because I'm smart. But this is the mounting piece that the bridge mounts to. So when you take the bridge out of your guitar, this is for a 2-post tremolo equipped guitar. When you take your tremolo off, you're going to take the posts out and you're going to put this on the guitar and then screw it down with the little screws they give you, which are in here. So we're going to move that over here. Right here they have what's called the American adapter. So in this, there's 2 little things that will go into, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can open this with one little hand here. I'm cheating. I'm using 2 hands. Alright, so I ripped it. In here you got these little threaded pins, I guess you could call them. And this is what goes into your threaded post inserts on your guitar. Right, so it's just a hollow tube so that their screws will fit into this, and this will fit into your tremolo posts. Okay, here are the actual screws that you will use. I'll open this. I'm going to cheat again. High quality content. All right, so here's what's inside this bag. So there you have the 2 Allen wrenches that you'll need to adjust the tremolo. You got these 2 screws, which go into these inserts, and that goes into your guitar. They also provide you with an Asian adapter, so you get 2 more little threadeds, these guys, right? You get 2 more of those, but that have a different size to them for the Asian market. So I won't be needing these because I'm putting this into a very beautiful American Fender guitar. And here's the unit itself. Okay, comes up, it's wrapped better than this normally, but I already opened it. So there's what you get. So inside here, you get this amazing bridge. This thing is so super solid. Everything locks down on this bridge, right? Everything. So even in the holes here, right, you'll see there's these 2 little screws here. That's to lock your springs into where they are seated. And you can put your springs in any one of these 5 holes. And Vega-Trem recommends you use 2 springs for their tremolo, so you can move these to any one of the spring positions that you prefer. I'm going to leave them here. What I like to do, though, is I take them out from this side and I put them in the back side. That lets you adjust them in the future. I've had some people ask if stringing these up was difficult because of where this is actually where you feed the strings, right? So on a regular tremolo, it's on the top of the block down here, so you'd expect to feed your strings through these holes, but you don't. You feed your strings through these holes, and they come up through the top of the bridge here, where you can see the holes in there, and it comes out there. Now, the way that this works, you can see on the corners, there's a sharp knife edge. I don't know how I can best show you. There we go. So you can see it sticks out a little bit further than the rest of the bridge right here, right? Those little tabs are knife edges that actually sit into grooves on the block, and that's what you pivot against. So those knife edges sit inside these little grooves, like so, and the bridge can pivot back and forth on them. And the really cool thing is that they come pre-greased, but you do also, you can get the grease that they used to put these in the box with the trems. This box didn't have it, but you can absolutely order this from their website, I'm pretty sure. Absolutely, but I'm pretty sure. You can order this from the website, and you can grease this as necessary. I've had my Vega-Trem in my Strat for a long time, and it does not need greasing. I think it's kind of one and done. If you should take the bridge out again and rub that off, then you might need to re-grease. But there you go. That's the unboxing of the Vega-Trem. That's what you get inside there. So now, all of that wonderful stuff is going to go into this guitar, and this guitar is insane. So check it out. It's going into this guitar right here. This is my 1995 Fender Custom Shop in blue Starlight. I know it doesn't look blue. It looks kind of purple or pink, but that's what Fender calls this finish. It's blue Starlight. So here you can see the original Fender tremolo from the Custom Shop that I will be taking out, which is almost sacrilege, but I think it's going to be a massive improvement for this instrument because there's nothing better than a Vega-Trem. But this is my girl that she's going into. Fender Custom Shop. Let's flip it over. You can see the back. So here we are, Custom Shop. It's a pretty figured neck here. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous guitar. This is maybe the best guitar I've ever owned in my entire life. And I absolutely love it. So there's what the Vega-Trem is going to go into. So, without further ado, let's get this party started. First thing we're going to have to do, take the old strings off. And I say old, but they're not. They're actually fairly new strings. So I'm kind of bummed about that. But anyways, we're going to take these strings off. We're going to get that old bridge out. And then we're going to toss the Vega-Trem in there and make this thing scream. All right, so let's get started. Okay, here we go. So there's the old Fender stock bridge. Okay, so here's the first threaded adapter. You can see at the top here, there's a little slot that you can kind of see, right? See the slot at the top of that? That's what tells you it's the top of the thread, okay? That's so that you can put a screwdriver in it and turn it, which most of the time you don't need to use. So you just take this and you screw this in. So the idea here is you want this insert to be below the surface. You don't want it sticking up. That way, when you put the Vega-Trem in, it will not be raised on one side or the other. It'll sit flush against these posts. So I just use this to help me get it down so that it's below the surface. Once it's below the surface, you can take this, make sure that your inserts are going the right way. Stick that right on there, and it sits perfectly flush because it's below the surface. You take the screw, get that guy started, get this guy started. And then the other thing that you can use to help line up everything is the slots are wider on this than the blades are. So the blades that sit in this groove are actually shorter than the groove itself, so you can move the bridge side to side. Okay, so this will end up sitting right in those slots, but it fits in the spot, no problem. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put the springs on here and tighten them down and then lock them into place. So I use this guy. And I basically just remove this screw from this side so that I can adjust it on the opposite side. It just makes it easier to lock it in place later after it's installed. Okay, so I have the springs that I'm going to use. I like to put them in right now, get them where it's going to be, which will be pretty much straight across like that. And I'll tighten that guy right down now. There we go. Now you don't want to over tighten because you will go past it, but you see it's locked in place now. Sometimes these springs can have a little burr on the end of it that you might need to sand down just to make it go into the hole smoothly, but these two seem to be okay. This is my my 5th Vega-Trem that I've installed, so I've learned a few tricks along the way that I'm hopefully passing along to you guys now. So there you go, you got your springs installed, they're locked in, they won't go anywhere. This helps with tuning stability, believe it or not. So a lot of people are going, haha, dum-dum, you forgot to put the bridge in first. Well, the great thing about these is it's got a kind of a thin, you know, block in the back here. So it'll go into the hole still, even with the springs on. So I take this, put the springs down, and it will literally ease right into the cavity where it's supposed to go. Okay, it'll actually almost fall through if you're not careful. So you can do that. What I like to do is just flip the guitar right now. Get these guys onto the hooks. Gotta be careful I don't pinch my grounding wire. Okay, those guys are in. Now my bridge is kind of sitting kind of haphazardly, right? So the next thing I got to do is I got to put my strings in here. Now on your first install, this can be a little tricky. Next time you change your strings, it's an absolute breeze. So let me grab my strings. So here's the strings I'm going to use today. These are 9.5 to 44, so it's kind of a custom gauge that I'm putting in here. So hopefully the springs will be okay with this gauge. This is actually my first time using these PRS strings, the signatures. These are supposed to have like soldered ball ends that make them more stable, which I think will be pretty cool. So let's get these guys in there. So what I like to do is I just like to turn the guitar so that the bridge is hanging over the edge of the table. I'll try to adjust my camera here for you so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm kind of running myself out of space here with all the crap I got sitting on the table. So let's just move this a little bit. Okay, so now you can see, got my strings. You can take the end of the string here and it goes right in a little hole and pushes straight through, just like every other bridge in the world. Okay, so now we got the strings all through. We're just going to flip the guitar over. Get my angle back here. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is just take all the strings and put them over to the side. I'll take my E string and I'll feed it through up at the tuner. And I have locking tuners on this, which makes it pretty helpful. If you don't have locking tuners, This next part can be a little bit tricky on the first time install of this bridge. What I like to do is from the back now, is I'll just help this forward a little bit so that it's not stuck in the cavity of the body. Of course, these springs are making it not quite as easy. There we go. So once that's up there, you could take your E string, pull it through, lock it down, and start tuning. And you can see I'm kind of not on over here, so I got to push this down a bit. Next thing I'll do is I'll take my high E string and I'll get it in the tuner. Pull it so that it's tighter. Lock it down. And start to tune it up. And this is where it comes in handy to install the bar. Get that guy in there. It helps you to maneuver this to where it's supposed to be. There we go. Now we're sitting in the grooves. Once you're sitting in the grooves, you're good to go. You can just start tuning these guys up a little bit. You can put the other strings in. So I like to go from low to high. They're not tuned yet, but I'm going to put my clip tuner on there and get them close. So, first thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to clip off the excess strings. So, to set this guy up, you'll see that the bridge is actually too far into the body. What you really want when you have this guy perfect is for it to be sitting right about like that. Actually, just like that. So you want the base plate that the saddle is sitting against to be flat to the body. That's your ideal setup right there. Now, of course, if I let go of the bar, it sinks back down. So how do you fix that? Well, you have to adjust the screws in the back. Okay, so if I loosen this, it's going to allow the strings to pull forward. And in fact, the more that I think about it, I didn't have to loosen my strings up top because I'm going this direction. Okay, so I'm going to give it quite a bit because it's pretty sunken in there. And what I like to do when I'm doing this is I like to get an even amount of spacing between this edge and this edge, and then check my tuning. Okay, so that looks right there to be about even Steven there. So now I'll come back, flip the guitar over. It's still sunken in the body, but now when I tune it, check it. You can see that it's getting closer to being flat. So I'm going to give it a little bit more slack back here. Okay, check the high side again. Keep in mind, this is a floating bridge. So every time you tighten one string, you're removing tension from the other strings. So it's a delicate balance to try to get this to happen. So now you can see I'm much closer to being flat. So I'm probably going to go about a half a turn now on the springs, or the screws, I should say. Get some. The thing that I'm worried about right now, that looks great, as a matter of fact. That right there is where you want it to sit. Now the thing I'm worried about is I used the medium tension springs, and that's recommended for 10s, and I used 9.5s. So the thing that I'm concerned about is that I've run out of spring. So what I want to make sure here is that if I pull, I've got the bar in my hand over here. If I pull the bridge back, do I remove all of the spring? No. So I think I'm going to be good. I think it stops right at the end. The one thing you don't want to happen is to remove all of the spring compression, right? So your travel, you should have all spring availability, if you know what I mean. So if these springs are too tight and they run out, then you can't use your full range of motion on your bridge, because one of these things they're famous for is their back pull, right? So you can pull significantly back, and you can see that it goes into the body of the guitar. You can go so far back. In fact, I've found that from your low string to your high string, you can literally go 2 whole steps on your E, A, D, and G string. You can do a whole step and a half on your B string, and you can do a whole step on your E string by pulling back from an open string. Okay, so this looks like it's where it needs to be right now. Okay, so I'm going to tune it up real quick. All right, so we're tuned, and we are exactly where we need to be. So now the next thing that you got to do to make sure that this thing is correct is set the heights of your saddles, and that's done with these 2 forward screws here, as with every guitar. But before you adjust these, you have to loosen this screw. This is basically the locking screw, right, that holds the saddle locked against the base. If you're going to move these up, you have to unlock these. I recommend you unlock them anyways. Unlock them when you're doing any kind of work on the saddles, and unlock them significantly too, because you don't know how far you have to move. Don't take the screws out, because you'll have a problem, but take them out, you know, a couple turns of the threads. So 2 full turns will get you unlocked perfectly. And then if you look in the back here, you'll see that there's these screws that stick into the back. So those screws are what you use to set the intonation backwards and forwards. That screw actually sits against the locking screw, right? So when you loosen that guy, this guy doesn't move until you tell it to, but it is against this screw. All right, that's what's holding this saddle in position. So if my intonation on the fretted 12th fret is flat, I'm going to loosen this screw, which will let the string pull the saddle forward. If I'm sharp, I'm going to tighten it, and that will pull the saddle back. Okay, so off camera, I'm going to go set the heights of these guys and get it to the radius of my neck, and I'm going to set the intonation, then I'm going to lock these guys down, and then we're going to do a little playthrough, and you guys can see how it sounds and how it reacts to my playing. So here we go. I'm going to go do that, and then right away we're going to get right into some playing finally. Okay, so there you go. That's the installation of the Vega-Trem. Nice and simple. Anybody can do this if you know how to change the strings on a guitar. So now you have a video that you can follow along with. The only thing I'm not going to show you is the setting of the height and setting of the intonation, just because it takes forever to do on a floating bridge. So yeah, let's get this done, and I'll see you in a second. There she is in all of her glory. Absolutely finished. See if I can show you. It's too dark. But this is my my custom shop. It's called Blue Starlight. Doesn't look blue. It's pinkish purple, I guess. But that trem installed beautifully. I did the intonation and I set the heights all up. Now, like I had said, you know, I did it off camera, but it's pretty simple to do. This screw in the back sets the distance in intonation. These two set the height. This one locks it all down when you're done. So of course, anytime you do work on either of these sets of screws, you got to loosen this guy. And it took me no time at all, actually. This I thought was going to take forever. I should have done it on camera now, but it was pretty quick. The only reason I didn't do it on camera is because I do use a strobe tuner that you know, I go back and forth to, so it would have been a very, very boring video to watch me intonate this guitar. But it's all set. I greased up the nut slots there with the grease that came with my previous Vega-Trems. It didn't with this one for some reason. I also put a little bit of the lubricant underneath that string tree, just so that the string doesn't bind up there either. So any binding point you want to put some lubricant on with any tremolo, not just Vega-Trem. So it's nothing special there, but it's astounding. So let's see how this guy does. You get to also hear my Custom Shop Strat, which is my absolute favorite guitar ever. I love this thing. I got this from Manchester Music Mill not very long ago, and I traded in some heavyweights for this guy. But let's check out how it sounds. Of course, I'm going through my Gojira plugin again. Get the tuner out of the way. So right now it's on a heavy tone. And this Vega-Trem is awesome. It's crazy stable, so you can hear that it's in tune. Right? Totally in tune before I start doing any kind of wacky stuff. But let's mess with this bar a bit and see how she do. dead nuts stable. I love this bridge. Definitely the best trim in the world for sure, Vega-Trem. I'm trying to hit a chord. Amazing. Vega-Trem. It's insane. Insane. Vega-Trem is the best trem in the world. If you don't go check these things out, shame on you. I must say, being my first video that is a sponsored video, because I didn't pay full price for this. I reached out to Vega-Trem, asked them about a couple of tremolos for guitars that I had, and asked them if I could get a discount on them, if I provided some content for them, and they agreed. So I got these for half off, and they're amazing. I hope to do a lot more business in the future with this company as far as getting tremolos on extremely good guitars. This is a high-end Strat, which deserves a high-end bridge, and that's what it's got in it now. So guys, do yourself a favor. Check out Vega-Trem as soon as possible. Put one in your Strat, put one in any guitar that's got a 2-point, any guitar that has a 6 position like this, that's got the 6 screws. They also sell to fit in those. But anyway, definitely check out Vega-Trems. They're the best. So there you go. You got the full install, you got a little bit of a demo. This thing's stable as all get out. So check them out when you get a chance to, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!